One welcome to you, Mr. Aigbe, and thanks for joining us from Breakfast Central. You belong...
Thank you very much. It's indeed an honor.
You belong to a civil society organization that advocates for the strengthening of democracy. Is this the right move to strengthen democracy in Nigeria by making it compulsory for Nigerians that are eligible to vote? Otherwise, there will be consequences, 100,000 naira fine or jail term.
I'm sure that while you are reading that or listening to the debate at the House of Representatives, you will be smiling and just imagining what kind of proposal is that.
You should love it. You're advocating for democracy. They're making your work easier.
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm saying that I'm sure you would have been laughing profusely when you were listening to that proposal. The truth of the matter is that let me quickly hang on the Australian model that the Honorable mentioned. Today, Australia does not have 100% turnout of voters. It's still about 75% of turnout of voters, because about age 70 and above, it is not compulsory for them to vote. This proposal for compulsory voting in Australia was introduced in 1912. It is important to state that in 1912. But those who want to counter my argument will say it doesn't matter when Nigeria will start it, which is okay and fantastic. But beyond that, the kind of governance system that Australia practiced, the way in which every Australian is known in the system, the way in which democracy has a level of integrity. Election in Australia is free and fair. No violence, no political manipulation, no elected official defection. There is no defection in Australia. I'm wondering why we use Australia as a model. I would think that a close country like Egypt could have been used, because Egypt also has compulsory voting. But in all honesty, is Nigeria right for compulsory voting? And maybe yes, maybe no. But let's look at the indices. Our electoral register is not yet cleaned up. Those who have died, those who have relocated, those who have jackpot are still on that electoral register. Are you going to punish them because they live abroad now? Or are you going to engage in diaspora voting to make it compulsory? If one citizen lives in a country where we may not be able to engage in diaspora voting, are you going to penalize them? There are a number of things. We don't even know the number of people in this country. And let alone how many people have left the country. Those who have died, I say those who have died. Even in Australia, when you live 500 kilometers away from your voting location on election day, it is not compulsory. In Australia, when you are sick or unable to move, maybe with disability or thereabout, you are not under that compulsion to vote. So when you make a blanket statement that you want to engage in electoral voting, in any case, in Australia, compulsory voting is enforced. There are other countries like Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, that cannot have the quasi-enforcement of those regulations. But the example, the reason I'm using Australia is because the honorable member actually used Australia as the example. And I say, whereas in Australia, like he said, compulsory voting pick up turnout of voters. But why we should interrogate in Nigeria, why is voting low consistently since 1999, particularly after 2023 election, turnout of voters continue to nosedive. Why? People should interrogate. In 2007, there was massive violence. In 2023, like the second honorable member said, that the expectation of Nigerians dashed. The hopes were high. Suddenly, there was an introduction of glitches. And the next thing we had was that you go to court if you do not accept the result. So somebody will also go to court to say that I don't want to vote. In fact, voting should be a right. And there are fundamental principles of the protection of rights. A voter may decide not to vote based on religious obligation. On Saturday, there are people who go for their religious obligation. They have their services or whatever on that Saturday that will fix on election day. Are you going to bring the ballot paper to their service center? There are a lot of complications. Okay. Let's not go into things that will jeopardize or begin to question the very essence of our legislative functions. All right. There are things to be done rather than compulsory voting. There's a lot
before we come to the things that need to be done rather than compulsory voting, is your argument against this bill based on the fact that it's impracticable, or is it that it's undemocratic in, looking at it in compliance with the provisions of the Constitution? So is your argument that it is impracticable, or that it is undemocratic, or is your argument that it is both?
Or misplaced?
It is actually both. Or added to the third, misplaced? Yes. Right now, what is democracy? Democracy is the people have their way, the minority have their say, which means they will continue to be minority. That's on democratic side. Feasibility is the things I talked about. Nigeria currently don't enjoy democracy. They don't enjoy the dividends of democracy. People who voted in 2023, that those elections were suppressed, that never counted to the turnout of voters. You expect them to vote, you need to find a way. So you want to then coerce them to vote. Those who were under duress not to come out to the applications in Lagos, how are you going to do it? You want to coerce them, then they go out in the process. So where is the system? The reason why many people are not even voting, it's not that they don't like to vote. One, they've been unable to collect their PVCs. And thank God that any proposal will remove the use of the compulsory use of the printed PVC, which we talked about in the last conversation we had. That will solve the issue of inability to acquire, secure your PVC. That may or is already a proposal that will increase in 2027. And I can tell you for sure, many people who did not collect the PVC can actually now go print and show up. That's one. Then two is a fear of violence. Look at another state. In the last election, 10% of voters turned out to vote to make a governor of a state.
Wow.
10%. In Nigeria, 28% made the Nigerian president. 2027, it may be worse, but however, with certain innovation in the reform, we are hoping, and beyond just the PVC, is to strengthen the way INEC officials are appointed or recruited. There's a trust deficit. That imagine the recent confirmation of some INEC official. Go and look at their bio. Some worked for INEC before, and one of them was actually in charge of logistics. Becoming an INEC chair, it sends a wrong signal to the polity. Aside that, is the way results are computed. Our collation system in Nigeria is almost like a game changer in an election. What am I saying? There are human errors in the computation. That is why you see, even in the 2019 election, the total number of registered voters that was declared by INEC did not agree with the total number of registered voters announced by the same INEC in the course of reading out the turnout of voter registration and all of that. So what am I saying? We have deficiency in our data system, and that is why part of what the House of Reps should be doing is to strengthen this electoral architecture, this mechanism. One, build trust in the system. Two, enhance the credibility process. In fact, when the process is credible and has integrity, trust will be enhanced. Then introduce innovation that enhances that trust. Electronic voting with a paper trail will answer that cure. So people believe that whatever they voted at the polling unit is uploaded immediately. And when that is done, they're able to verify. Not that you voted in the polling unit, by the time you see the results online, they say it was cancelled. It was cancelled because the figures on the from ECAT did not agree. The ballot paper issued, the ballot paper used, did not agree with the talking about vote count. And if there are just such kind of occasion, the returning officer can actually declare that result sheet null and void, and it never moved to the next level. So we should deal with those operational errors and build trust. Gradually will increase the voter turnout. So
if we put all this, if we take all these measures that you've suggested, and all these measures are put in place, will there ever be a situation where mandatory voting will be acceptable in Nigeria?
I can't hear you.
I was asking all the suggestions that you've made as to the reforms that you think we need to do to strengthen voter systems. If all the structures and systems and suggestions are put in place, will there ever be a situation where then enforcing a bill to, ensure mandatory voting will be acceptable or permissible?
At some point, it will be clear that there's been improvement in our system, and that at this time there is no longer opportunity to have to lament. Then we can begin. That will be like something in the next decade or so. So you could have reviewed. I am actually telling you that by the 2027 election, if processes are strengthened, laws effective, we must do away with this ballot paper system. That's an argument that I will continue to say, based on the waste and of course the manipulative tendency of it. We cannot rely on this result that we saw in a Kogi election, where they were pre-filled election result sheets. Even though INEC said they were going to interrogate it, they went ahead to declare an election result without interrogating the very corruption in the system, thereby giving nuance to an opportunity to other states to want to do the same. So what I'm actually saying, that in the next decade or so, we would have reviewed our system, would have seen improvement in the governance system, would have seen a democracy that is strengthened, a democracy that truly pulled out the best of its people and not the manipulated candidate of the system. If we are able to get to that point,
all right.
This proposal, we don't need the House of Reps to say it.
Thank you, Mr. Aigbe.
Necessarily from the system.